Hello, my lovelies. It is me again on my own personal road to WrestleMania 40, watching all WrestleManias consecutively until we get to WrestleMania 40 in April 2024. One of my favorite things about watching all these WrestleManias back is seeing the performers that perform the national anthem. And today we are on WrestleMania 14. There was no national anthem. I went digging a little bit and found out it was the Chris Warren band that did the national anthem for WrestleMania 14. If you don't know who that is the DX band. DX Chris Warren band would go on later to perform when DX came down to the ring. But apparently, the crowd really did not like the Chris Warren band doing the national anthem and thought it was a trash. The national anthem from WrestleMania 40 is actually scrubbed from all physical media, so on my VHS it's not there, and apparently they've even went so far to take it off the network. Like, holy, couldn't have been that bad. I'm gonna go find it and watch it. Maybe I'll put a little clip in here. At the twilight. Because I have not seen it. Let me know what you think. Was it really that bad? That being said, like I said, they do perform when DX goes down to the ring, and apparently Vince McMahon was Vince McMahon about that. Apparently he loved that performance. That is still obviously on the VHS. Great. Gets you in the mood for the Attitude Era, which we finally are in. WrestleMania 14, first WrestleMania of the Attitude Era, so let's get into it. So the first feud I kind of want to touch on at WrestleMania 14 is that of Legions of Doom and the New Age Outlaws. So when I ask people like what their favorite tag teams are in pro wrestling history, Legions of Doom 90% of the time is on their list. But the New Age Outlaws in the Attitude Era are like one of the most over acts. Now, at the beginning of 1998 at the Royal Rumble in January,
the Outlaws
go into that pay-per-view as tag champs, and they were going up against the New Age Outlaws. At the Royal Rumble,
the Legion of Doom
did walk out victorious. Then fast forward to February 28th, 1998 at a Raw. They did have a rematch between Legion of Doom and the New Age Outlaws. And there was some funny business going on in this match. So if you don't know,
your ass better call somebody!
But the New Age Outlaws is Billy Gunn and Road Dogg. During this match, Legion of Doom almost had the win with Animal pinning Road Dogg. Because it looked like he already had the win, Hawk stayed in the ring and he was kind of pre-celebrating, and the ref was trying to get him out of the ring. So while ref was distracted with Hawk, Billy Gunn took one of the tag belts and hit Animal over the head with it, then flipped him over. They got the 1, 2, 3. Obviously, this caused a little bit of friction between Legion of Doom. Hawk ended up attacking Animal. They were brawling. They went all the way back up the ramp to the back curtain. Behind the scenes, they did dissolve their tag team and they were out of action after that. Now on to what we are speaking about, WrestleMania 14. This happened March 29th, 1998. We have a tag team battle royale for the #1 contender spot. And who is the surprise entrance to that? That is LOD 2000, Legion of Doom. They got back together to grab that #1 contender spot in this battle royale. Personally, I don't love battle royales, especially tag team battle royales. It's a lot. There's a lot going on and it's really hard to keep track of who's even still in the match. Get that many men in a ring. I think there was like 16 to 18. My mind checks out a little bit. That being said, Legion of Doom did go on to win the #1 contender spot. Do also want to add, they came out with Tammy Sitch. This is when Tammy Sitch, aka Sunny, was with Legion of Doom. Personally, and I know she has done some terrible things, but as a small child, this is what I really loved Tammy Sitch with the Legion of Doom. I thought she was just so much fun. We don't stand Tammy Sitch on this channel anymore. She is exactly where she needs to be, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, head on over to the other videos on my channel discussing that. Legion of Doom win the Battle Royale for the #1 contender spot. They did have a match with the New Age Outlaws, the reigning tag team champions, and they had that match at Unforgiven, April 28th, 1998, but Legions of Doom ended up going on to lose. Going into the next year, Legions of Doom, Animal, and Hawk would have some personal issues, and within a year's time, they would go back to Japan. Now, very Attitude Era-esque, we are no longer calling Hunter Hearst Helmsley Hunter Hearst Helmsley. He is now just Triple H. As we know, back in August 1997 is when DX started to form. So, you know, Triple H, Mr. Suckit, and he comes out with Mrs. Suckit, and that would be China. I love her so much, and I really hope one day she gets to be in the Hall of Fame as a soul person because she deserves it. I know she's made some mistakes in her life, but I mean, I guess who hasn't? And there's worse people in the Hall of Fame, let's be for real. Always kind of found it interesting that with people from the Hart family going to WCW, I didn't really understand why he didn't go with his family over there, about Owen Hart and how big of a family man he was and how he just kind of wanted to make his money and retire young to spend time with his wife and his kids. And then it's also said he didn't want to move his family to Atlanta, which is where the WCW headquarters was. At WrestleMania 14, we'll be getting Owen Hart versus Triple H for the European Championship, which was unified with the IC belt in 2002. So this is residuals from the Montreal Screwjob. Shawn Michaels and Triple H effed over Bret Hart, his brother. So previously to WrestleMania 14, Owen Hart was the European champion, but he had an ankle injury and he was wearing a boot. And at this Raw in March, Triple H kind of swaggled Owen Hart into a match for the European Championship, even though Owen Hart was wearing a boot. So obviously, Triple H at that Raw did win the European Championship. So going into WrestleMania 14, with Triple H being the European Champion, and Owen Hart's ankle still being injured, they had their rematch for the European Championship. They didn't want to let Chyna get involved or, you know, have any funny business during this match. So they had her handcuffed to Sergeant Slaughter so she wouldn't get involved. Lo and behold, she did anyway. She blew some white powder in Sergeant Slaughter's face. And because Owen Hart is such a bright light, even when he's in the ring, he went to go check on Sergeant Slaughter. And while he was doing that, Chyna low-blowed him, and that gave Triple H the opportunity to give Owen Hart the pedigree. And 1, 2, 3... like, ref, do your job. Come on. After the whole screw job happened,
I allowed Bret to strike me. I had hoped that he wouldn't. I'd hoped that we could sit down and try and work things out.
Whether you think Bret screwed Bret or whatever, would have been nice to see them push Owen a little bit more, you know? But at this time, again, it's the Attitude Era and DX are running things. And it's really sad because later on, 1999 is when we lose Owen. And when you really look back at Owen and why he didn't go to WCW and how he wanted to just retire with his family, he just deserved better all around. Not just winning championships. I could have been a huge star, and you just know he was a great dad. And it's just, the whole thing is just so tragic. Now, a complete change in tempo here. Really? Who remembers when Sable bombed her husband out of a career in professional wrestling? I do. Before that happened, we had a mixed tag match between Sable and Mark Marrow versus Goldust and Luna Vachon. Was this a fantastic match? Nay, nay. Did I have fun? Always. I'm a fan of both of these women. I love Sable and I love Luna Vachon, obviously for very different reasons. But this was at a time when Vince McMahon was pushing women for their looks and their beauty, and not so much their talent. So at this time in the 90s, Mark Marrow and Sable were married in real life. They went into the business together. Well, Mark Marrow kind of brought Sable into the business, but Sable, looking the way that she does, was getting more attention than Mark Marrow. Kind of put this into storyline, and Mark Marrow was mistreating Sable, and when she would come out in her revealing outfits, he would cover her up and make her go to the back. Luna Vachon this time also had a bit of a disdain for Sable and kayfabe because, again, she was getting attention and she was getting attention for all the wrong reasons. Previously to WrestleMania 14, the girls did get into a little bit of a cat fight, and the boys, Mark Mero and Goldust, tried to pull the women off of each other. Goldust did grab Sable and try to pull her off of Luna Vachon, which pissed off Mark Mero, and he attacked Goldust, and this led to the mixed tag match at WrestleMania 14. Sable and Mark Mero did go on to win this match as well, and Luna Vachon was really upset. She went to the back and was kind of hoping to be praised for carrying Sable because this was Sable's real in-ring debut. I mean, she has been a manager. This was her real in-ring match. Luna Vachon really had to carry her, and she was kind of hoping to be praised for that, but nay. Everybody was so proud of Sable for doing such a great job. The only person to really comfort Luna Vachon backstage, it is said to be Owen Hart. Luna Vachon has gone on to the record to say that, which just fills my heart with so much joy because Luna Vachon really deserved more and deserved a title run. She was so different, especially at a time in the Attitude Era when women were overly sexualized. They were pushing people like Sable, and don't get me wrong, I did love Sable, you know, just take her for what she is, but she didn't really deserve those kind of spots. After this WrestleMania at WWF Unforgiven in April, Luna Vachon and Sable would go on to have an evening gown match. So whatever, Attitude Era, doing Attitude Era things. Later on in May is when the infamous Sable bomb to Mark Mero happened that same year. And this kind of had men in the back look down upon him. JR has said, like, Stone Cold didn't really say why he didn't want to work with Mark Mero after that, but it was, you don't really have to say it out loud. Nobody wants to have a match or lose to Mark Mero after being power bombed by his teeny tiny wife. It is what it is. It was the 90s. We have intergender matches now, and they aren't, you know, frowned upon as much. Sable and Mark Mero soon after this would leave the WWF, and only Sable would return in 2002. Smell what the Rock is cooking. I will never do that again, I promise. When this catchphrase was born,
times out of 10, he'd be a hung jury if you smell what I'm cooking.
In a backstage promo with Rocky Maivia, aka The Rock. This is kind of when he turned with Nation of Domination, and he is becoming more of a heel. He isn't that squeaky baby face Rocky Maivia that he used to do. Nay. He is The Rock, and that catchphrase is born backstage. And at this WrestleMania 14, The Rock is the IC champion, and he will be taking off Ken Shamrock, which, if you haven't heard, Ken Shamrock is coming out with new merch with the WWE. What's that about? Anyway, it's good to see the good old Rocky instead of Rocky Maivia, but his match at WrestleMania 14 with Ken Shamrock was kind of a squash match. It only lasted about 5 minutes. This was for the IC title, and Ken Shamrock technically won this match, but it was overturned because he wouldn't let go of the leg lock on The Rock, and then he ended up attacking a ref. It was just a hot boo-boo mess. The Rock does leave as IC champ, but I think the important part of all of this is that we are getting The Rock that we know today that is so synonymous with the WWE. As we know, going into WrestleMania 14 from earlier in my video, the New Age Outlaws are the tag team champions, and they will be taking on two of my favorite men of all time, and that is Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie, aka Mick Foley and Terry Funk. This is a tag team title match, and it is a dumpster match. Dumpster match is kind of like the casket match, except you use a dumpster, you have to get them in, and then you have to close it. I love it. I'm here for it. You know what? Let's throw them in the trash. Of course, with the New Age Outlaws, Cactus Jack, Chainsaw Charlie, you know this is a fun match, but it was just the freaking ending that absolutely killed me. The ending was amazing. Cactus, Chainsaw threw the New Age Outlaws into the dumpster. They are the new tag team champions. I was so happy to see it. The next day, that decision was overturned. Can you guess why? They used the wrong dumpster. So this match did spill into the back. Cactus and Chainsaw threw the New Age Outlaws into a dumpster in the back, not the one at ringside. It was the wrong dumpster. That is so WWF 90s. You can overturn a match because they used the wrong dumpster. So because that was overturned, the belts were actually vacated at a match for the vacated belts, and guess who won them? Yes, the New Age Outlaws. Pointless! Not so pointless, because it was a fun match. Of course, we are going to talk about WrestleMania, the most iconic thing to happen in WrestleManias, and that is the Undertaker Streak. And if you've been watching my videos, these matches have been less than desirable. Let's just say that. But this one, on entrances alone, I guess it's my favorite one so far. WrestleMania 14 come through with the Undertaker Streak. This is the Undertaker versus his kayfabe half-brother, that is Kane. Kane does come out with Paul Bearer. So Paul Bearer had kind of been warning the Undertaker after WrestleMania 13 about something. A little something. Something was Kane. But Kane didn't actually end up making his debut until October 5th at the Bad Blood in Your House event. That's when the Undertaker and Shawn Michaels had their Hell in a Cell match. Shawn Michaels ended up winning that Hell in a Cell match. And after that match was over, lights went out, red, Paul Bearer comes out, and we had the debut of the Big Red Machine, Kane. I also want to note that this Hell in a Cell match in 1998 was the first ever Hell in a Cell match, the one between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. So that's pretty sweet. Fast forward to January 1998. This is when we have the Royal Rumble and the infamous casket match between The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. And this is when The Undertaker is thrown into a casket and it is set on fire. So they think that The Undertaker is dead. Won't see The Undertaker again until this WrestleMania 14. So at this casket match at the Royal Rumble, Kane did get involved and he was the one to pick up The Undertaker, throw him in the casket. Paul Bearer padlocked the casket, pulled it up the ramp. Kane chopped it up with an axe, set it ablaze. You know, it's a wrestling. What can we say? But when officials came out and they got the casket open, nobody was in there. And then you hear The Undertaker's voice pretty much wanting revenge, saying he will never rest in peace. It's his revenge on Kane. Fast forward to WrestleMania 14. Here we are, and The Undertaker's still alive. And at WrestleMania 14, The Undertaker does win over Kane. This is the first time that somebody actually sits up from the tombstones. The Undertaker gives Kane 3 tombstones before he actually gets defeated, which is a big deal in the world of The Undertaker. But like I've said in previous videos with The Undertaker, it's not so much his matches that got The Undertaker over with me. It's stuff like this. You can set him on fire and he's okay. That's all right. And from this, going forward, we would get the Ministry of Darkness, which, like, enough. Now, the next big match that I do want to talk about is the main event, and that is Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels, at this point, is still WWF champion. Watching Stone Cold Steve Austin walk from the back, out through the curtains, and hearing the glass shatter. And that pop is a thing of effing beauty. Nothing will ever top that for me. Not only was it fantastic, but WrestleMania 14 was in Boston, which if you know me at all, I'm Canadian, but I go to Massachusetts every year. I love me some Massachusetts. So seeing the Boston crowd really pop for Stone Cold Steve Austin was just, oh my God, it was gorgeous. This is why I am a pro wrestling fan. As we know, previously to this, with the Montreal Screwjob, Shawn Michaels also losing his smile and not wanting to drop the belt to Bret Hart in the previous year. Going into WrestleMania 14, Shawn Michaels had herniated discs, and what had happened at the Royal Rumble, as we know, he had the match with The Undertaker, and that was the casket match. He had actually fallen on his back. He got the 2 herniated discs, And going into this match with Stone Cold, it has been said that a lot of people didn't really believe Shawn Michaels at this point. He was kind of the boy that cried wolf. He would cause a lot of issues backstage. People losing your smile previously. People didn't really believe anything this man said. It has come out, obviously, that he was in immense amount of pain, and you could see it in his face during this match. It was a brutal watch. I think with him being so hurt, he's done a lot for the business, whether you love him or not. But this match was 20 minutes, and it was a good match. It was just knowing what we know now of how much pain he was in. You can feel it through the screen, that's for sure. And it's also been said that The Undertaker was backstage waiting for Shawn Michaels, because if there was any funny business, if he didn't take the L to Stone Cold Steve Austin, that The Undertaker was going to be back there waiting for him to throw hands. Shawn Michaels has been known for some funny business. Of course, Stone Cold Steve Austin does go on to win because Shawn Michaels is injured. He's going to need to take a bunch of time off. And Stone Cold Steve Austin is the new WWF champion, which was the right call. Obviously, even if Shawn Michaels wasn't injured, I mean, Stone Cold Steve Austin at this point was so over. Again, like I said previously, that pop that he got when he walked out into the crowd was insane. And then I'm gonna rewind a little bit and talk about one match that I didn't talk about, and that was for the light heavyweight championship. That was Taka versus Ajulia. I'm saying that completely wrong. This match was about 5 minutes, and it was a fun match. It was one of those flippity-dippity matches that I like so much. But it was, you know, WWF light heavyweight. It was the second match on the card. I didn't really care too much. I just wanted, you know, we're in the Attitude Era. Let's get silly. So anyway, that is WrestleMania 14. What did you think about the first WrestleMania in the Attitude Era? Did you love it? Did you hate it? I personally had a really good time watching this. I would give this WrestleMania a 7 out of 10. You know, was it the best ever? No. Did I have a good time? Again, always. So what did you think about this WrestleMania? And I will see you guys next week for my rundown of WrestleMania 15. Let's go! See ya.